Good morning, everybody. Thank y'all for your patience as we worked out our, now everybody's coming because they've gotten a new link. We're still having trouble with our mighty networks and creating all these links, but we're so excited today to have Neillie Butler, who's here, a Birmingham local celebrity who plans the most amazing weddings.
I don't know about celebrity, but
I think you're a celebrity. I definitely think you are. Everybody wants to be in the middle of all the beautiful things that you post, and it's really one of my favorite Instagrams to even look at because
that makes me feel good.
yeah. So and you have so many other fun things going on, and I love how you just diversify, always doing something cool. So those are the people that we love to watch. So we're very excited to have you here today. So why don't we just start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your story, and then we can go into some wedding etiquette.
Perfect. I'm a mother. I've got a 6-year-old little boy. I've got 2 stepdaughters that I claim as my own as well. And so I'm a mom. I started this business in 2009, literally at the rock bottom of a financial crisis that we were all going through, but my husband and I had just started life over together and had just gotten married, and we were pinching pennies and rubbing it together to make ends meet, honestly, month to month. And I had about $300 in my checking account when I asked Tom if I could start this business. And he was very, very supportive, but also very weary, and just said, you can, but we need a 2-income household, and you got to make a living. And so I walked dogs. I was a nanny. I house sat. Tom made Tom even overnight babysit somebody else's children. We just did everything we could to get it going. I started a blog before I ever had a client, which is also very funny because I barely passed the 5th grade. School was not my thing. I had a severe learning disability growing up and just really, really struggled in school. So started the blog, and Tom would write it and edit it, and I would just dictate it to him. And got one client that was a sweet 16, and then it kind of led to a birthday party, an engagement party, and I was just really willing to plan anything that people would hire me to do. And I think the first year that I was in business, I did 10 weddings, and those budgets looked anywhere from $1,000 for the total budget to $10,000 for the total budget. So very, very different than what I work with now. But again, just really willing to do anything to create a portfolio and a name for myself. And, it just kind of slowly but surely took off. I think people ask me all the time, like, what was your background in order, how did you do this? And honestly, I think my background is nothing more than hard work. I'm I'm very organized. I'm type A, all of those things. But I'm a people person, and I like to please. I'm eager to please. I'm an eager to say yes type person. And just kind of given my background of my life experiences, everything from having the severe learning disability to then battling 4 years of cancer, and, nearing death's door a few times when I was in college, and overcoming cancer, getting married, getting divorced, getting married again, taking on stepchildren. I just feel like there were so many life experiences that just put me in a place to be more driven than any one person really needs to be. And so I love people and serving people and loving people with my whole heart. And so weddings just kind of happened. And then once Marie and me really got off the road, off the ground, we were doing 30 weddings a year, 50 weddings a year, 60 weddings a year, and it just exploded. So that now here we are in COVID, and hoping to do 20. So it's been an awesome journey and very, very rewarding.
I love hearing that, and I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head about like when you go through things like that in life, and like when you learn how to work hard from an early age, like how that translates now in this world where just the ability to persevere and to work hard and not have the expectation that everything's supposed to be easy, like how far that takes you. And I think that's so important to say, because I know a lot of us that are on the call this morning are mothers, and, you know, like I have a child that has a learning disability, and oftentimes you think like that's, you know, I mean, obviously we kind of grieve when we see things that are hard for our children, but also like just now, you know, with mine being in 8th grade, I'm seeing that like determination and that perseverance starting to develop within her, and like the skills of like, I have to be organized.
Right.
I know I have to give myself extra time. And then like what that translates into later in life and just how far it can take them.
I ran into my special ed teacher. I think it was Bruce's 1-year-old birthday. We were having breakfast, and she just burst into tears. And she was like, I told everyone you were going to be fine. And my 5th grade teacher told my parents that I shouldn't go to college because I would amount to nothing. And I remember that conversation. And so I was always told, like, you're never going to be a banker. You're never going to be a lawyer. You're never going to be a business owner. You're never, you know, like, you're just not smart enough for that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And my mom was like, you know, she never really said you can be anything. Like, it's not like I'm going to go be a doctor. So she like helped me steer me in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I had always loved weddings. She took me to a bridal show when I was 14. And the wedding world just kind of went out, you know, I didn't really think much about what I was going to be, obviously. And then when I had cancer, my mom always talked to me about, what are you going to do after this? What are you going to do after that? And that was her way of coping with, my child has a very bad disease and could easily die. And it was her way of being like, no, we're going to get through this. And her way of keeping me very positive of going through it. And so I think I was probably the only cancer patient at the Kirkland Clinic still going on like interviews and like picking people's brains about what they do for a living. Mm-hmm. But it's really during that college time and me being sick that I kind of geared into, I want to be an event planner.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love hearing that. And I do think it's like that, also teaching yourself to like dream into the future. And what a wise mom you have. I love that. That's a great way to talk about it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Marie Aimee and what that business how you've had to shift because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So, and one thing I definitely want to talk on, because we definitely want to hear about the business side of things, but also just wedding etiquette now. Like, what does that look like and how has that shifted?
Awesome. Well, I'll kind of just start with like what Marie Aimee is, but you know, so we are a luxury wedding planning company. We plan weddings all over the world. And so our clients, we have great Birmingham clients, but we really have clients that live all over the country that have no connection to Birmingham whatsoever. They hire us and we may do a wedding in their hometown, or we may do a destination wedding for them. But we have worked pretty much all over the country, in Italy and Austria and Mexico and places like that. And so we have the luxury or the pleasure of working with these amazing people that I would never get to meet any other way. We work with a lot of CEOs' daughters, presidents of massive, massive companies, oil and gas, you know, the plastics business, like all these companies that have done extremely, extremely well. And I'm talking on a cell phone direct to the CEO, president, you know, that has been very successful. And so I've learned a lot about myself as a business person, honestly, from these clients teaching me as well. I learn something new every day with every conversation. But I have a team of people who work with me. So probably about 2 years into the business, I decided that I did not want to be a one-man show. I didn't want to be a single wedding planner that people only depended on myself. And so I wanted to build a business and a company. And so I push to all of our clients, you know, you're hiring Marie Aimee as a company, you're not hiring Neillie Butler. And so I've made it my mission to hire very talented, driven people who the clients depend on directly, so that they're not depending on me, so that I could scale this business beyond just myself. And I have that has worked really well and was going very, very well. Last year was probably one of the biggest years we've ever had. And I never dreamed in a million years my little wedding planning business would be as successful as it is. And we were on track to do more this year and a bigger year this year. So we were all super excited in January and February as we were looking at being in Montana twice, in Tuscany, in California. We had weddings literally spread across the country. And Tom called me at the office and was like, hey, I think this virus is actually coming this way. And 24 hours later, I was at my laptop in my kitchen canceling every wedding we had. So I told somebody the other day, I feel like I was on the top of a mountain and I got pushed off the back of it, and like I'm still hitting the rocks. I haven't made it to the bottom and I'm still hitting the rocks. I actually had to reschedule a wedding this morning. It's just constant. And so COVID has really affected us financially, obviously the biggest factor of it all. It is, I think, I can't believe how fast it just fell apart. And just, I have worked every day on trying to figure out, like, how do I don't want to lose anyone from my team. I don't want to cut anyone's pay. But we have a third of the work. And so that's just been very challenging as the leader of the business, trying to, navigate the PPP and all those kinds of things. But then also just the emotional side of it. I just never stop, but you've got to remember that there's also people who are just like, this is so stressful. And for my team, it's extremely stressful. It's extremely emotional. We're dealing with very, very intense conversations that it's just like, ugh, this isn't fun anymore. We went from having this like job that was all beautiful and, exciting and adrenaline rushes to just not fun. And I think that's really hard, for my team and the people on my team. So, COVID right now, we lost all of spring, which wedding season is spring. So we make a bulk of our, income in the spring, and all of those weddings were gone. They were either moved to 2021 or a few canceled. And then a few decided to have smaller weddings, which we get paid a percentage of the job. So when they dropped to smaller things, then, it really affected our overall year budget, because what we were expecting to make for that client, we didn't make. And then if they moved to 2021, we collected our minimum payment for this year. Sometimes we were able to collect some of the percentage if the wedding was completely done, but I've now given them a Saturday for next year for free.
Right.
So it just, the hardest part for me was we're so close to our clients and we want the best for our clients. Like every business, I can't charge them more money because of COVID. It's just, I don't feel like it was the right thing to do as just a human. We're all in this together. So it was just a constant struggle of like, I'm watching my business fall through the cracks and I'm doing 3 times the amount of work and not getting paid near what I was supposed to be paid. And it just like, the whole thing just didn't work. But at the end of the day, I just decided that how I handle this with the client and the way they leave this experience is more important to me for future business than any amount of money. So that's really it on a COVID standpoint. I don't know if I answered all.
Yeah, you did. And one thing I do want to touch on too is like, so, as you've gone through this process, I'm sure you've learned a lot as well. I mean, doing the hard things oftentimes cause you to reflect back on how you initially structured your business from the beginning. Have you made any changes as a result of that?
We have my office manager and myself, as well as my husband, who's kind of our of counsel, have rewritten my contract. I can't even tell you. I think every day when COVID was changing constantly, I think we rewrote that contract 5 times, just trying to like protect us going forward, because currently the contract was terrible. It didn't protect me at all from any of this. But he would have known this would have ever happened. So it's not that I don't know what it could have, should have, but we have put into place that, anyone right now going into weddings and signing a contract with us needs to know what could happen. You know, it's when the first wave of weddings, everybody just worked together, the vendors worked together to try and make it best for people. But now contracts are in place, and, you know, in big bold letters, you're not getting your money back and things like that. And so we did put in a rescheduling fee just to kind of cover the extra time that we're going to have to take to replan these things if that happens. But I'm really going into it more of a very open communication with, hey, you understand this is what could happen, and we need to plan a wedding. If you get engaged today and you sign up today, then we need to plan a wedding that we know can happen even in today's times.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's smart. Yeah. Okay, well, one of the things that you've touched on a little bit, and one of the things that I often hear about you in the community where people are talking about Marie and me, it's just the amazing team that you've built. I know you, and just thinking about scaling a business, how very important that is, because, and how difficult that is to invest in your employees and teach them and train them so that then they can go out and reproduce the level of talent and quality that you bring to each wedding. So did that come naturally for you, or was that a learning process?
Yeah, it's always a learning process. When you're managing women, it's always a learning process. I was doing this very by myself in the basement of our house, you know, and I had just come out of just such a difficult time in life that I was probably a little lonely, you know, so I was building something for myself. And then I really honestly never thought this business was going to make more than $50,000. I truly thought if I ever could just make 50, I would be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never really thought I would ever have an employee, because I thought, well, if I personally need to make, you know, that. And so it was weird. You know, I had one girl come and knock on the door constantly wanting to help. And it's Louise Pritchard. And I couldn't afford anyone. And she said, just let me work for you for free. And I let her kind of work for free for a little while. And then I figured out I could pay her like $200 a wedding. And then it was $300 a wedding. And she just retired last month, and she's been with me for 10 years. She's my right hand. She's my best friend, you know, all the things. And then she was the first like guinea pig for me. So then I found somebody else. There was a girl named Emma Reich, and she was just a really silent, I called her my silent giant. She was really shy and quiet, but she was just really efficient, and I could see her talents, and I could just see how great she would be to the team. And so I just kind of made it happen financially. And so to back up, I worked for Brassel and Gorey for a little while, and Mr. Gorey told me if I would surround myself with really good people, I would be fine. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that in like, never be the smartest one on your team, and hire really good people, and you can grow anything you want to grow. And so I always just like kept that right there on a Post-it note on my computer. And when I would see talent, I would grab them. And when I would see the personality that fit within our team and that I knew could take care of our clients, I would just make it work financially. So I gathered good people. And then once I got good people, my biggest thing is I just like love them as hard as I possibly can. And that sounds very unbusinesslike, but I just love them. And you know, I try and give them a lot of grace. I try and like do this whole work-life balance thing. You know, I treat them the way I want them to treat my client. And I just feel like, you know, it's kind of like that saying, if you love yourself, then you can love others, but you can't love anyone else until you love yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of use that motto within Marie and Me, and, you know, just lead with grace. And it's just worked really well. And I feel like they all feel it, and they know it, and they know that they can turn to me, and they often call me Mama Bear, because I have their back no matter what. So, you know, I know that they're not as afraid to like dig deep in with their work, because they know that I'm going to, at the end of the day, going to protect them from anything that happens. But the other thing is, I think that I make it very loud and clear to them, I am not building this business for myself. I'm building it for you. And I want you know, I want Chelsea Bell at Miami to be the best wedding planner she possibly can. And she just happens to work at Miami. Like, I want her to be known for being an amazing wedding planner at Miami. I don't want it, you know, I want them to be outstanding individuals in their field at our company. And so I try, especially like we have 2 new team members right now. There's a lot of like setting them up for success and helping them and molding them, but not micromanaging them, and like giving them a little bit of rope every day to like try things new on their own, but telling them like, okay, hey, this is what I want you to say when you make this phone call. So they need to be taught, but then like helping them be the face rather than me being the face. Certainly it would be easier for me just to make the phone call to Watercolor this morning, but having her call and being known as a Miami planner, but telling her what to say and, you know, kind of teaching that way.
Yeah. Well, and that's so important because, you know, Lauren and I talk about this a lot, and it comes up in many conversations about like what it really looks like to invest in women. And, you know, that is what, just the longer I'm in the business and the longer I've had people invest in me, I realize like that's where the real value comes, is not
Thank you.
getting the people to like tell me what I can do better, but then also
That's it. Thank you.
And y'all, that's Lauren that has not muted
Hey
herself.
guys, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
Hi, Lauren, I hear you from somewhere.
Sorry, I'm gonna go on mute.
That's Lauren. She's at the airport. She's flying home from Mexico, so it's just me today. I should have said that, but.
No, investing in women, I think, is one of the things that is like the most rewarding things I do. But at the same time, it can easily be one of the most challenging things I do every day. I love, like, nothing brings me more joy than seeing the people on my team grow and enjoy growing. And like, it just makes me happy. And, you know, the more they want to be there and the more they want to, you know, work with the clients, and the more harder they work, the prouder I am. And if it means, you know, giving them an extra time off because they have children, or if it means, you know, working with them through infertility because they need to go to the doctor all the time, you know, that's just part of managing women. And, you know, men, not to sound like this, but men don't have to deal with that, and they don't deal with it, and they don't listen, and they don't care. And, you know, but then there's sometimes that you put all this time and energy into the women, you still have these emotional, like, decisions are made. And, you know, sometimes I have been known to sit the team down and be like, hey girls, I don't run a sorority, not gonna run a sorority. And if you're having a bad day, I need you to take the day off, you know, don't bring it here. So at the end of, you know, it's a check and balance, but, you know, and you have girls that want to be moms, and I have young employees that, you know, are new moms, and we work on Saturdays, you know, and so there's just a lot of give and take. And I think at the end of the day, it benefits, you know, to be able to give that give and take. It has helped me in the long run, and I've been able to keep really good people. But sometimes it's, you know, it's hard, and you wish you could just not deal with all of it, but it's just part of it.
It is. It's definitely part of it. Okay, so let's shift gears for just a minute and talk about new wedding etiquette.
Okay.
What are some top tips you have for weddings that are being rescheduled, or potentially being the guest list being cut? Like, what are some things that we should know?
So I think for the girls who are rescheduling, or maybe I should say the girls that were hit by COVID and are having to do smaller weddings, they are having to disinvite usually half their guest list, if not more than half the guest list, because they can only have 50 people now, and they had 250 people on the list or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So they're having to send out a card that says, basically, thank you for your support, but due to COVID, you're not invited anymore, you know, in a much graceful way. And so getting one of those cards needs to be just understood, and, you know, send the bride a gift. She doesn't want to disinvite you, but she has to. Mm-hmm. So send her a note telling her that you got the card and you will be, praying for her from afar or celebrating her from afar or whatever. Just show that there's no ill will, because they're a nervous wreck. The moms especially are just, I cannot believe I'm having to disinvite people, but they have to. And honestly, these girls just need to get married. Trying to, I'm afraid that the ones that we rebooked for 2021, like in March and April, I don't know if they're going to happen. And so the sad part is these girls have now waited an entire year to have their wedding, to it really might not even happen even a year later. So my advice to the clients are, let's just get married now, and let's do it in a way that is safe and goes by the rules and whatnot. And so we're doing a lot of small seated dinners.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you are one of the lucky ones that stays on the original guest list and you get invited to one of these small COVID weddings, go. Because it was lots of tears were shed to make that list.
That's
and
a
so,
great point. Mm-hmm.
Make every effort to be there for that family. And, but a lot of good has come out of this. These small intimate weddings are just so awesome. They're special. They know everybody in the room, whether it's a seated dinner or whether, we've done a lot of, there were big tent plans, and they were at either a farm, or we did one in Virginia at a winery in August. And we had, big tents that were built for 350, 400 people, and we ended up having 100. And so we've done these amazing design plans with just smaller people, smaller guest counts. And those are amazing, because it's like you can really notice like all the detail that goes into our work, and you get to do special things. And so that isn't really a bad thing. And if the dads will keep the design plan budgets and just invite less people, it's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
So I think just seeing weddings happening, even if they're small, maybe they're in a backyard, whatever they are, I just don't think these girls need to put their life off, because we don't know. I have no idea when it's going to be over.
Yeah, that's great advice. Okay, so everybody, you can ask a question for Neillie in the chat feature, or you can take your line off mute. But one of the things, just in closing, Neillie, we always ask our guests this, but why did you say yes to the wealth edit? Or stated differently, like, why do you think it's important that women talk about money?
Because it's just such an odd question, and I think that money needs to be talked about with women. I also feel like, at least me, I've always had the imposter syndrome of like, I shouldn't talk about money because I was never supposed to make any money.
Mm-hmm.
And oops, I think I have made money now. And so I think that it's just nice to have a group of women that can feel, talk freely and not be insecure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think y'all are great. But I also just said yes because I like y'all.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We're so excited. We have a couple questions. One is from Catherine Thrower, asks, is there a dream wedding idea you'd love to plan?
There's not a particular, I love California. Every time I get asked to work there, I go. I love California. I love tents. I love high design. I really do love these small guest counts, seated dinners. There's not one particular like dream of mine. Honestly, I try to make every one I do a dream so that I have fun every weekend. Yeah,
that's awesome. They really are. I just love watching your Instagram posts just to see like what new idea
we have 2 this weekend, so stay tuned.
All right, I'll watch. Krista Cotton, who's our biggest cheerleader for all our speakers.
Oh, mine too.
She's not, but it says Neillie's a 2020 Tory Burch Fellow, and despite the COVID setback, she's still kicking ass. I love that. I love that. Okay, so last question is from Ivy, who says, how have you managed your own stress response and having to adapt so rapidly when weddings are so emotionally charged in general? It's a great one.
So the thing about me is the really good thing that came out of having cancer is that I don't panic, like period, over anything, because once you've been told you've got cancer, it's kind of like, that's a panic. That's Is it all over me? Where is it? Am I going to die tomorrow? And once you've done that 3 times, you kind of get numb to this like initial panic. And I think that God, not to get spiritual on things, but
you're welcome to.
I think God set me up for this. I think I'm very thankful, and I thank him every day for just, that living for your purpose type thing. Brides are so emotional. Wedding days are so intense. It is a one-time show that has to go perfect, and we get no dress rehearsals. So it's, and it's very unpredictable, believe it or not. Like we plan to a T, and I always tell people Saturdays are the easiest days of the week for me because I work so hard to make sure Saturday is like, I've thought about everything and seamless, making it seamless. And there's always going to be something. A bus isn't going to be able to back in the way I thought it was, or something. There's always something. But I think the reason why I'm so good at my job is because I don't panic. And I think that once you panic, you can't really think clearly. And so I just think that I've been blessed that I just don't panic. And so I can always think clearly. And I also am a big believer in like thinking of the worst possible outcome and how am I going to handle it? I mean, that's constantly how I think, which goes back to the cancer days, because I used to think before going into an MRI, which I got for 10 years after I was sick, to get the scans to see if it had come back. I always laid in that 45-minute, scan and thought, okay, if they tell me it's back, these are the first 3 phone calls. This is what I'll do. This is how I'll plan it. This is, I would literally plan out being sick. And then I would and they would tell me that I was or I wasn't. And I would either put into action what I had planned out, or I would usually cry from an emotional kind of like let down in a weird way. And so I'm just I just always think of like, what is the worst thing that's going to happen and how am I going to fix it? And that is what wedding planning is. And so I just think that that's how life, and my mom always said, there's never really a problem. It's just a situation. A problem can be solved, and I'm a great problem solver. So I just see it as a situation and how are we going to work around it? But I think my calmness on wedding days is kind of like in the thank you notes on Monday morning is always like, I'll battle any battle with you. You just kept everybody so calm. You never had any drama. You never had any emotion, and thank you for keeping us calm. And so I'm kind of like, well, you're welcome, but I didn't really mean to. It just kind of is how I am.
Well, it sounds like you were perfectly designed for your job. And we're so thankful to have had you today. And as you can tell from all the chats, everybody loved hearing from you, and you just have a lot of fans out there. So thank you, Neille, and hopefully we'll get to have you back again because there's so much more we could talk about.
Oh, I would love it anytime. Thank y'all for joining.
All right, bye.
Bye.